Bonjour, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le jeudi 3 juin. Nous n'avons pas d'annonce particulière pour vous aujourd'hui, mais je voudrais vous rappeler que les ministres du Transport se réunissent aujourd'hui pour un conseil transport. La commissaire Adina Vălean y participera pour le compte de la Commission. Et les ministres discuteront entre autres des deux propositions relatives au ciel unique européen, de la voie à suivre pour la stratégie de mobilité présentée par la Commission, ainsi que du rôle du rail dans la décarbonation du secteur des transports. Une conférence de presse avec la commissaire Vălean aura lieu en fin d'après-midi et donc je vous invite à réserver vos questions sur ces thèmes à cette conférence de presse. Voilà qui nous amène déjà à la fin de nos annonces et donc je passe aux questions et le premier à avoir levé la main aujourd'hui est Athanasios.
Merci, bonjour. I read that you have welcomed the agreement on IPA3 funds for the enlargement process for the Western Balkans and Turkey. Apparently, there is some information that these funds are also linked to the handling of the migration crisis and the migrants in Turkey. Could you please verify that this is the case, that these kind of funds are also directed to programs that are related to the migration situation in Turkey? And secondly, could you also please remind us what are the rules for these funds? Because I recall there was some decision in 2018 that Turkey is generally excluded from those funds, and only those parts that go to the civil society and the rule of law issues are actually finally directed to the country. So what is the case? Please explain. Thanks.
Thank you. That would be a question for Anna, I believe.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Anna.
Yes, go ahead, Anna. Hi, thanks so much. Athanasios, as you know, in the past programming period, our main instrument, of course, to support the refugees in Turkey has been, of course, the FRIT, the Facility for Refugees in Turkey. With regards to future funding, I'm not really in a position to go into the details. You are very well aware of the European Council conclusions and the commitment of the leaders to look into future funding to continue supporting the refugees in Turkey, and the Commission, of course, is currently preparing a proposal to that effect. And with regards to the IPA funding that you mentioned for Turkey, it is true that you're aware that in the last years, it's true that the IPA funding for Turkey was reduced due to several reasons, including absorption capacity in Turkey, and much of the support was indeed redirected to support civil society and the democratization efforts and reforms in Turkey, and also as well specific sectors of particular interest, such as climate change, for example, and energy. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
It seems that despite your answer, Athanasios has a follow-up question.
That's correct. So what you're saying is that the IPA3 funds are not linked to the migration issue at all. Thanks.
Anna.
So IPA funding in general from the previous program supports, broadly speaking, our accession countries to prepare to take on board the EU acquis. So, of course, in the context of IPA funding, we have also provided support for migration management issues in all of the candidate countries. Now, as regards to the future IPA funding, programming is ongoing, and we are not now in a position to say how much of the IPA will go for this or that sector, or for this or that country, or for this or that objective specifically. But broadly speaking, IPA has also covered, of course, support for partner countries to be able to enforce and approximate to the EU standards, also when it comes to migration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Anna on this issue or on other enlargement-related issues? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. So, Anne-Laure, une question sur l'élargissement ou les fonds IPA? Non? No. Augustine, a question on IPA or on enlargement?
Yes, I have on enlargement and IPA. The question is, what is new this time? Because emphasis, especially from the members of the parliament, is on the possibility to suspend IPA funds for those candidate countries or potential candidates who have deterioration of democratic values or rule of law. If we read progress reports, we see that many of them have challenges, to be mild. So in which cases you think that there will be a possibility to suspend the funds? Thank you.
Anna.
Many thanks, Agustin, for the question. I think that what we can say is that, of course, as mandated by the treaties, heading 6, so the budget that's dedicated overall for external action will contribute to advancing respect for the principles of the United Nations Charter and international law. The Commission is fully committed to the respect of the rule of law, human rights, justice, and values. And this is also something that, of course, is reflected in the IPA 3. The IPA 3 shall be adjusted and targeted to the specific situation of the beneficiaries, taking into account further efforts that are needed to meet the membership criteria, as well as the capacities of those beneficiaries. And indeed, the assistance will be, of course, differentiated in scope and intensity according to the needs, but also commitment in reforms and the progress in implementing those reforms, and including, of course, democracy, fundamental rights, rule of law, cooperation on migration, and also economic governance. So these things will be taken into account. Now, we're not, I think, in a situation right now where we would need to take decisions. So these things would, of course, very much need to be seen case by case. But you also make reference to the enhanced methodology for the Western Balkans, which, of course, also foresees, the principle of supporting, more of the countries that reform faster. So this is what I can say for now.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Anna today? That is not the case, so I open the floor to other issues, and I have Mrs. Apostolova. Desislava, sorry. No, Apostolova, sorry. Go ahead. Getting my names confused.
This is Slava Apostolova, Bulgarian National Television. My question is on Bulgaria. The United States has sanctioned yesterday 3 Bulgarian citizens and their companies for their involvement in serious corruption. And the sanctions are under the Global Magnitsky Act. My question is, was the European Commission or maybe the Internal Office informed or consulted in advance of this decision? And will this case have an influence on the next rule of law report or the next CVM report on Bulgaria? Thank you.
Thank you very much. A question for Christian.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for this question. What I can say on this is that the Commission is aware of the US individual decisions targeting certain Bulgarian citizens. As we have said before, it remains important that developments in Bulgaria do not reverse the course of progress. Bulgaria needs to finalize implementation of the points made at the time of the 2019 report. There is still unfinished business. An important element in this report was continued cooperation with the Council of Europe bodies to address any remaining shortcomings with regard to the Bulgarian anti-corruption framework and effective criminal investigations. Bulgaria needs to establish a solid track record of final convictions in high-level corruption cases. The Commission will continue to monitor these developments closely in the context of the annual Rule of Law report.
Thank you, Christian. Are there other questions on this issue? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this issue. Momshil.
I asked such a question yesterday, and today I got an answer. But according to this answer, any decision to it's not the practice of the Council to impose sanctions on EU citizens. EU sanctions policy is part of the common foreign and security policy. So I would like to ask, as you know, at least 2 of the sanctioned Bulgarians are part of a scheme for illegal residence permits. So isn't it a threat to the security?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. The first part of your question and the first part of your comment and then your question did not seem to me to be extremely related. You initially said we don't have an individual sanction regimes, and then you ask us to judge on a specific case related to these passports. Now, that is not. Those things are not necessarily related, because obviously in EU member states you have got legal systems to judge issues of compliance with the law. So if your question is on a particular issue related to acquisition of citizenship, if I understood well, that would be for Adalbert. No, for you. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. For you.
Yes. No, I mean, you read the line, I think, that you received from Peter on the sanctions regime. I think on the other issue that you mentioned regarding sale of citizenship, I think we made our position quite clear back at the time. As far as I remember, there is also we referred there also to the investigation that was taking place at national level. Apart from that, I think our position on citizenship and citizenship not being for sale is very clear and well known. But I wouldn't have any specific comment now in this context on this earlier development.
Momshi, you have a follow-up? Sorry? No, okay, put his hand on. Very good. Desislava, you were the next one.
Bonjour, tout va bien, vous m'entendez?
Nous t'entendons, vas-y.
Merci Eric. Je voudrais savoir si l'Union européenne, logiquement, connaît mieux ses membres que les États-Unis. Est-ce que certains éléments de l'argumentaire des États-Unis étaient connus à la Commission? Et si oui, est-ce qu'ils font partie du prochain rapport sur l'état de droit qu'on attend au mois de juillet? Et deuxième question, hier dans cette même salle de presse, on parlait de l'élargissement de l'espace Schengen. Est-ce que, à votre avis, les sanctions imposées par les États-Unis à un pays membre de l'Union européenne, en l'occurrence la Bulgarie, aura un impact sur cette tendance, cette volonté de la Commission d'élargissement de l'espace Schengen? Merci beaucoup.
Alors, c'est la première partie de la question.
Oui, c'est la première partie de la question. Ce que je peux dire est que naturellement, nous travaillons pour beaucoup d'années étroitement avec les autorités bulgariennes et avec aussi les NGO, civil society, beaucoup d'acteurs dans les préparations des rapports et aussi maintenant du rapport de l'état de droit. Alors nous connaissons très bien la situation et comme je dis, bien sûr, la Commission va continuer à suivre ces développements et étroitement dans le contexte du rapport annuel de l'état des droits.
Et sur ta deuxième partie, je passe la parole, ta deuxième question, je passe la parole à Adalbert. Vas-y.
Merci beaucoup, j'espère que vous m'entendez bien. Et bien sûr, concernant l'élargissement de l'espace Schengen à la Bulgarie, mais aussi à la Roumanie et la Croatie, la Commission a pris position hier, encore une fois, très clairement, en faveur de cet élargissement. Nous considérons que ces 3 États membres ont rempli les conditions nécessaires pour ce faire, et maintenant c'est au Conseil, aux États membres, de prendre cette décision.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur ce sujet pour nous aujourd'hui? Marcus.
Yes, hello. 2 questions I have, actually. First one, well, the United States are now sanctioning EU entities and EU citizens. Will there be any reaction by the Commission vis-à-vis Washington, or is the Commission just okay with them and will basically say nothing to Washington? The second question is, do the sanctioned individuals and entities directly profit from EU funds? Thank you.
For the first part of your question, I would give the floor to Peter. For the second, I don't believe that we can give you an answer like that from the podium. We can see whether we have any traces of EU financing for specific individuals and come back to you. Peter, on the first part.
Thank you. Well, the US sanctions are the sanctions by the US, so they do not apply on the EU territory. They are not obligatory to the EU member states, so there's nothing that would justify us taking some kind of countermeasures or anything else. I mean, these are the measures the United States took within their legal framework. They apply on people sanctioned in relation to their activities with or in the United States.
Exactly. I think it's important to remember that we have our own legal order in the European Union and that we look at issues based on that legal order. On your second question, Marcus, we'll come back to you. But you have a follow-up? No? Okay, Marcus, unraise your hand, please. Unless you have a follow-up question that you want to ask. Raise in my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, let's move to other issues. Gabriela.
Hi, thank you, Gabriela Batiska, Reuters. I wanted to ask you a comment about Denmark Parliament decision today to adopt a new law that allows for the deportation of asylum seekers from the Danish soil to third countries outside of the EU to process their asylum requests there. Is that within EU and international humanitarian law, and what does the Commission think about it, please? Thanks.
Thank you. A question for Adalbert.
Thank you, Gabriela. We take note of the vote today in the Danish Parliament on the proposal for amendments to the Danish Aliens Act. We share the concerns expressed by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, both about the compatibility of this text with Denmark's international obligations and about the risk of undermining the foundations of the international protection system for the world's refugees. External processing of asylum claims raises fundamental questions about both the access to asylum procedures and effective access to protection. It is not possible under existing EU rules or proposals under the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. The Pact on Migration and Asylum that the Commission proposed is based on the right to asylum as a fundamental right in the European Union, guaranteed by the EU Charter. The Commission will now carefully analyse the Danish laws, pending their entry into force, before deciding on any next steps.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions for Adalbert on this issue or other home issues? Anne-Laure.
Oui, c'était à propos, c'était un follow-up de la question précédente. Que que peut faire la Commission concernant le Danemark, sachant que le Danemark a un opt-out en matière migratoire et d'asile? Et une deuxième question migration, j'aurais aimé aussi avoir l'opinion de la Commission sur le canon sonore, je ne sais pas comment appeler ça, utilisé utilisé par la police en Grèce contre les migrants à la frontière avec la Turquie. Est-ce que c'est en ligne avec la vision de la Commission sur une gestion humaine de la migration? Merci.
Merci. Des questions de nouveau pour Adalbert.
Merci beaucoup, Anne-Laure. Donc, concernant la situation juridique, maintenant, après ce vote au Parlement danois, c'est quelque chose que nous devons analyser de manière approfondie. Comme tu l'as soulevé à juste titre, effectivement, il y a la situation du Danemark par rapport à l'acquis migration et asile est particulière dans l'Union européenne du fait de cet opt-out qui est contenu dans un protocole au traité. Et donc, je ne peux pas te donner une réponse circonstanciée immédiatement. C'est quelque chose, comme j'ai dit, que nous devrons analyser plus profondément. En ce qui concerne ta deuxième question sur le dispositif mis en place à la frontière entre la Grèce et la Turquie, je peux rappeler que la gestion des frontières extérieures, en tout cas du point de vue de l'infrastructure qui est placée à la frontière, est la responsabilité des États membres. Ceci dit, c'est quelque chose qui doit être toujours fait en ligne avec la Charte des droits fondamentaux de l'Union européenne, y compris le droit à la dignité. Et toutes les mesures qui sont prises à la frontière extérieure doivent être proportionnées, doivent respecter les droits fondamentaux ainsi que les droits découlant de l'acquis asile de l'Union européenne, y compris le principe de non-refoulement. Donc la Commission a noté avec préoccupation les rapports dans les médias concernant ce dispositif de canon acoustique. Selon ces rapports dans les médias, ce genre de dispositif aurait été utilisé afin de décourager les passages de frontières. La Commission reste donc en contact avec les autorités grecques. Nous allons chercher davantage d'informations. Par ailleurs, je peux rappeler que dans le nouveau pacte sur la migration et l'asile, la Commission propose un système de gestion des migrations qui respecte la dignité humaine, qui est humain et qui comprend notamment des procédures rapides mais justes aux frontières, ainsi qu'un mécanisme de surveillance aux frontières extérieures pour assurer un plein respect du droit européen.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Adalbert aujourd'hui? Patricia.
Thank you. Good morning. Patrizia Antonini with ANSA Press Agency. I would like to ask if there is any other member state that has stepped in to help Italy with the relocation of migrants in addition to Ireland, who already pledged. This is my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Adalbert.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I do not have an update about the ongoing discussions that we have with the member states about the relocation pledges. So if that's okay with you, please allow me to double check and come back to you.
David.
Oui, merci Eric. Je serais intéressé aussi par l'update sur l'Italie, mais j'ai une question sur la Grèce. Il y a un document qui a été publié sur les réseaux sociaux du gouvernement grec, daté 1er de juin, qui dit dans la substance les fonctionnaires grecs, y compris la police, qui témoignent des refoulements dans des procédures administratives contre l'État grec peuvent être punis avec des procédures administratives internes. Donc, dans la substance, le gouvernement dit aux policiers et aux fonctionnaires vous ne devez pas dire la vérité sur les pushbacks, sur les refoulements. Je voulais savoir si vous avez un commentaire sur ça.
Merci David. Je ne sais pas si nous sommes informés en détail de ce document que tu as mentionné. Adalbert ou Christiane, parce que c'est aussi éventuellement une question état de droit. Mais Adalbert, as-tu un commentaire là-dessus?
Merci beaucoup, David. Nous suivons aussi très attentivement ce qui se passe sur les médias sociaux, mais je dois dire que sur cette question, nous n'avons pas pour l'instant d'éléments à donner, et effectivement, comme Eric le dit, c'est une question qui concerne à la fois la migration et aussi l'ordre juridique en tant que tel en Grèce. Donc je pense que c'est quelque chose que nous devrons aussi regarder plus attentivement avant de pouvoir donner des éléments.
Oui, David, je crois que nous devrons revenir vers toi sur cette question une fois que nous aurons pris connaissance éventuellement du document dont tu parles. Je ne vois pas d'autres questions pour Adalbert aujourd'hui. Y a-t-il d'autres sujets pour nous? Łukasz.
Yes, I have a question on Belarus. Last week, European Council decided to impose economic sanctions on the country. So I would like to know whether you are in this process, and do you work on the, I don't know, any impact assessment of such sanctions on the European Union economy, and which Belarusian sectors can be affected by these sanctions? Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Peter.
Hi, thank you. Well, indeed, the European Council tasked the European Commission and High Representative and also Council working bodies with certain tasks when it comes to our response and further restrictive measures against Belarus. I can only confirm that this work is well underway, that all involved are working very hard in order to have it in place in line with the wishes and decisions by the leaders of the EU as soon as possible. But since this is an ongoing process, I cannot comment on the details. I can only state that the work is well underway and that we hope to see the results and adoption of concrete decisions very, very soon.
Thank you, Peter. Are there other questions for Peter on international issues? Please don't keep your hand raised if it is on this. Federica, a question on foreign relations? No. Okay, I see no other questions on foreign relations for us today. So Federica, you have the floor.
Thank you. So my question is about, now that the European Court said that the European Parliament vote on Hungary of 2018 is valid, I wanted to understand if Hungarian citizens can actually ask for asylum to other European countries. Thank you.
Christian, a question for you. I think it's a bit premature, to be honest. Let's remember that the case is about the right of the European Parliament to launch the procedure following the vote. It is not on the substance of the matter.
Yes, indeed. I'm also a bit not quite sure about the question here, but I mean, yeah, which is about. I think you're asking about the judgment regarding the procedure triggering Article 7, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Which is of course not directly related to concrete legislation in place in a member state. On the judgment as such, the Commission takes note of the judgment, but it is not for us to comment. This is a procedural matter for the European Parliament.
And I mean, asylum procedures are extremely specific procedures, the right associated to them as well. I believe Adalbert can enlighten us a little bit.
Thank you very much. And concerning the question of EU nationals or EU citizens asking for asylum in the EU, there is in fact a specific protocol to the treaties dealing with this particular issue. And while it is possible under national law for member states to grant asylum to EU citizens, this is under this protocol to the treaty. These such applications should be regarded in principle by member states as not founded, given the very high level of protection that member states of the European Union are required to give to their citizens. So legally, I would suggest that you have a look at this protocol to the treaty, which can give you some important legal elements, but it remains fundamentally a national competence in this case.
Federica, you have a follow-up.
Is exactly because in the sentence that that was published this morning, it was saying that once the European Parliament starts the Article 7 procedure, the non-possibility of other European states to grant asylum is actually removed. And so that's why I'm asking, because if that's removed, does it mean that then they can actually offer asylum to Hungarians? That's where the question came from a legal standpoint, not out of the blue. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's good that you specify exactly what is the basis of your question on this. Let's remember that this is a judgment which arrived mid-morning. I do not believe that we'll be able to offer you more in terms of comment than we are already, than what we have already said on the podium, but we will of course check this specific sentence in the judgment to see how we interpret it. But once again, let me remind you that this was a court case between the European Parliament and Hungary. All right, are there other questions for us today? Lukáš.
Yes, I have a question on your proposal to update the coordinated travel measures ahead of the summer. So you propose that the fully vaccinated person holding vaccination certificates should be exempted from travel-related testing or quarantine after receive the second dose, if there are the two doses. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't hear the technical briefing after the conference, but so sorry if you give the answer for that question, but I will try. Do you have any research, scientific data as a base for your proposal that people who are vaccinated or who are recovered do not transmit the virus? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a question for Stéphane, which indeed I think we have answered a certain number of times, but Stéphane will give you the elements on this.
Thank you very much. I did not hear it very well. Would you mind repeating it last?
The question was, do we have, and if so, what are the scientific elements on which we would consider that a person that has recovered from COVID or that is fully vaccinated does not pose a risk in terms of transmission of the disease?
Well, this is indeed an issue which is clearly examined and continues to be examined by the scientific world. I don't think there is a lot I can say at this stage, apart from the fact that our colleagues from the European Medicines Agency are looking into this transmission, into the question whether indeed transmission remains possible. But I think we have to check here our colleagues from the European Medicines Agency. Thank you.
Lukáš, you have a follow-up.
Yes, but you said, if I hear it correct, that they are looking on it. So I assume that this is still like it's a question. Yeah, I mean, this is not a fact. Yeah, I mean.
Lukáš, I think that it's been said already a certain number of times very clearly that the medical understanding of these issues is certainly evolving. It's something which is under constant review. Clearly, here we cannot give you a scientific analysis of the exact effects of vaccination or recovery from COVID, but it is clear as well that you can see from the numbers in countries with high vaccination rates that you have significant decreases, for example, in the number of infections and entry into hospital, etc., etc. Okay, are there other questions for us on health-related issues today? That's not the case. Other issues? I do not see other questions for us today, so thank you very much. Please stay tuned because we now have a technical briefing on the e-identity coming up and followed by a press conference on the same issue. Thank you.